Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Hope you guys are ready for some witch hunting, because we've got a couple of witch hunters here, and we've got a witch out in the distance riding on, whoa, that was way too far, on a black dragon here. So let's get to the army compositions. This is going to be Empire versus the Dark Elves. This replay submitted by Kark. So Balthazar Gelt here with just final transmutation, whole front line of greatswords and flagellants. He's also got silver bullets, several groups of crossbowmen, interesting choice, some halberdiers and spears to protect the back line, and of course the aforementioned double witch hunter. For the Dark Elves, he's got a Supreme Sorceress Lore of Fire up on a dragon, which I quite like this tactic as Chaos. Haven't tried it as the Dark Elves, but I'd imagine it would work just as well, except they don't do fire damage, so maybe not quite as much synergy there, but Cascading Fire Cloak and Fireball, I guess no Kindle Flame since there's not really a whole lot of synergy there, but we do also have Slaanesha's Harvesters and some Cold One Knights, front line of some Bleak Swords, Sisters of Slaughter, and more Bleak Swords, a Cold One Chariot, 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers, a unit of Harpies, and more Cold One Knights out to this side. So you can see the battle's already kicking off here. The bolt throwers firing at the great swords here. Unfortunately, currently on the anti-large type shot, would definitely be better on the scatter shot shooting at them, but it's still going to do damage, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's still a giant bolt flying through the air impaling several men, but not too bad. You can see the Empire player, Kark here, just pushing forward very, very patiently. This fireball is probably going to land on one of these witch hunters. Ooh, looks like he just manages to dodge it there. Very nicely done. But the Cold One Knights, since there's not really anything to protect these great swords in the front line, they're just going to go ahead and drop a nice face charge there. You can see the lizard limos doing the same out in the distance. And this is going to be pretty painful for those great swords, but looks like an accusation goes down, which will actually do pretty good because Cold One Knights are kind of a lower model count type unit, only 36 models base. They are going to take some damage from that accusation, so pretty good use of that there. Meanwhile, over here, the Cold One Chariots had charged in initially, but are unfortunately not being pulled back, and Cold One Chariots are one of those units that's incredibly powerful, but you have to be on top of your micro, because if they enrage, that's basically you've lost the entire point of them, because you can't cycle charge them anymore, and that's the whole point of a chariot, is just to cycle charge, right? So they are going to be pulled away at the last second here before they enrage, which is quite nice, but thankfully this unit of Cold One Knights that came in was able to be dealt with there with the accusation, and the crossbowmen and the other units just kind of staying strong. Slaanesha's Harvester is going to dive into the Sigmar Sons, and thankfully there are some great swords here as well, but I mean, of course, Slaanesha's Harvester is a very elite unit, probably will be able to get some good damage done here regardless. But ooh, that withering fire coming down from the Reaper Bolt Thrower, clearing out these skirmishers in the center pocket, which is a very good use of them. Great swords again being dragged down by the Cold One Knights and the Sisters of Slaughter as well. So yeah, these guys are dying a very, very painful death over here. But meanwhile, the Cold One Chariots did get dragged down here. Another group of Cold Ones also getting dragged down by halberdiers. Pretty solid pick in this matchup as long as you don't face too much skirmish fire, and I guess Kark had enough like crossbowmen and other stuff here to counter fire, but silver bullets unfortunately are standing like directly behind these crossbowmen, so they're not actually able to shoot, unfortunately, and they're also being just pounded by those Reaper Bolt Throwers. Harpy's going to come down and try and silence this group of crossbowmen. Oop, nope, yep, trying to decide what to do here, but Cold One Knights also coming through, but this is a bit dangerous. Again, they're isolating themselves, the accusation hits them, and they don't already have a lot of unit models to begin with, and all of a sudden there's Empire Spearmen, there's Halberdiers supporting, so yeah, these Cold One Knights, initially this probably seemed like a really good idea, but the Empire State Troops going to get in here and see them off quite nicely. That being said, a lot of the skirmishers for the Empire are being dealt with, and this Supreme Sorcerer is still relatively healthy at this point. I mean, crossbowmen do have okay AP values. They're not the best, but what is it, 4 AP per shot, which is not terrible, certainly. But just getting bogged down on all these the Bleak Swords here, it means the Great Swords are just going to be shredded by those Reaper Bolt Throwers, who, have to say, so far MVPs for the Dark Elves, and you know, you don't often expect the Dark Elves as a powerful artillery faction. In fact, even, I would say, it's common practice to take a lot of artillery against the Dark Elves. But, you know, you can kind of subvert that when you're playing as the Dark Elves by bringing the Reaper Bolt Throwers, which are a very cost-effective artillery unit if used appropriately. Fireball coming down there, landing on the Halberdiers, does a little bit of damage, but overall not a ton. Final Transmutation did go off on the Doomfire Warlocks there, interestingly enough. And I believe there was one used earlier on that hit like the Cold One Chariots and one of the groups of Cold One Knights as well. I didn't manage to catch that, but yeah. You can see here the Dark Elf troops getting very low, facing the unbreakable Sigmar Sons here, despite the fact that they are not necessarily meant for this combat. The Dark Elf leadership is just going to falter in the face of the unbreakable Sigmar Sons here, and maybe they'll rout, maybe they won't. It's hard to say, and it looks like the Sigmar Sons are actually winning this just due to their great combat stats. They actually have way better combat stats than the Cold One Knights, so yeah, they'll probably end up winning that engagement, but the Witch Hunters here coming back in the back line, trying to finish off these Reaper Bolt Throwers, and oh, come on, that was wimpy. Not sure what just blew that up, but something just blew up one of the... Oh, was that the other Witch Hunter, like, side-shotting it or something? I don't know how he's blowing up these artillery pieces here, but I guess the Witch Hunter's just popping them. But, yeah, the Cold One Knight's going to try and secure the back line against those two Witch Hunters, but it's going to be tough. You can see State Troop Spearmen cost-effectively holding off some Cold One Knights here, and Sisters of Slaughter have been able to get a lot of work done, but now getting dragged down by Flagellants here, having taken quite a bit of damage. I guess, I don't know, are the Flagellants dragging them down, or are they dragging down the Flagellants? I think they're dragging down the Flagellants. Yeah, I think this is the last one of that group, and he's done for, so... With that group dispatched, these guys are probably going to try and reunify here to the center area. Harpies chasing down, routing skirmishers across the field. We do have a couple more State Troop Spearmen here, though, and Balthazar still relatively healthy as well. The fact that these Reaper Bolt Throwers finally being compromised here after having gotten a lot of work done, definitely beneficial, but here comes the Witch. She's going to come down, and the Witch Hunters are going to start to do their thing, popping off shots on her, and looks like maybe he's shooting at something else, but... unfortunately, accusation probably still on cooldown for both of these guys right now, which is pretty painful, but nonetheless, the fact that there's two of them means that, you know, one will be able to shoot in while the other one runs, and vice versa. But, yeah, nice little side shot there. As soon as he stands up, he just gets batted by the tail once again. But it is starting to add up. You can see the Supreme Sorceress now starting to take some damage. Opal Amulet being used to resist some of the damage of that accusation there. But the Witch Hunter also getting in melee, kind of sideswiping him a little bit. Witch Hunter probably doesn't want to really be here, but not a lot of choice at this point. Celestious Harvester is going to try and come in and help, but looks like Final Transmutation being used on them, and Word of Pain going on the Witch Hunter, interestingly enough. So, ooh, the Final Transmutation also just barely catches the Supreme Sorceress a little bit. Doesn't actually do that much damage, but I thought it potentially might. That being said, you can see the Sisters of Slaughter, only 18 models left, still fighting tooth and nail, actually just now routing off to a pretty much completely healthy group of Spearmen, and these two reserve groups of Spearmen coming in the late game, just cleaning up some of these very tattered units. I mean, obviously they'll clean up an artillery crew, no problem, but in the back line, though, the kind of the critical engagement, you can see the bounce power still very, very close. The Supreme Sorceress, though, is taking damage. Another accusation, a Cascading Fire Cloak to buff up her melee defense just so that she doesn't take any hits from the Witch Hunter in melee. But both the Witch Hunters still alive and able to shoot with their pistols. So that in and of itself is pretty beneficial, and the Sigmar Sons also trying to come through here. Looks like the Bleak Sword's going to be coming into a supporting position as well. Balthazar comes to apply a rear charge to these Bleak Swords to try and break them, free up some of these Halberdiers and Spearmen, which should be able to do so. Those Bleak Swords are still hanging on, but as the leadership of, as the HP of the Supreme Sorceress gets lower and lower, as she starts to get accused of heresy by the Witch Hunters and popped by the pistols, I don't know why this Witch Hunter is really running from these dudes, but I guess he's just going to cap them and they're going to run away. But anyway, yeah, nice hit there on the Supreme Sorceress with the pistol, and the two Witch Hunters still being online here should be able to finish her off. And again, if she goes after one rather, then the other will be able to fire at her. A nice fireball does a pretty good amount of damage, but still, just that perpetual damage from the pistols just plinking and poking, and Balthazar running for his life from the Harpies, which, you know, we probably all expected this to happen, but Balthazar actually, yeah, he probably doesn't want to fight the Harpies in the air. That's probably not great. But is he going to potentially come down to the ground here to try and just screen off the Harpies on some Spearmen? Nope, just stays in the air there, and it's actually the Supreme Sorceress who's going to stay on the ground and finish off one of the Witch Hunters there. Unfortunately, the other one's still online, and it does look like Balthazar comes down to apply a rear charge, and with his high charge bonus of 70 on his mount there, he will actually be able to get maybe a hit or two there. Still going to be dangerous, but I understand coming to the ground to screen out the Harpies there is going to allow him to maybe take some potentially nasty damage here, but it also kind of pins in the Supreme Sorceress for just a moment. Unfortunately, the Witch Hunter's line of sight is obstructed by Harpies and other things. You just can't get a super clear shot at the dragon, so a little bit unfortunate there, but Balthazar squeaks back up into the air. The Harpies are still on the ground fighting these units here, and the Supreme Sorceress is going to launch a fireball at this Witch Hunter. Ooh, just about finishes him off. Will it finish off his leadership? Not before he gets a few more shots off, and just about finishes off the Supreme Sorceress. So at this point, still super close. The balance power slightly in the Empire's favor, as pretty much everything here is, you know, unifying to this last kind of center engagement here. Balthazar obviously going to be running to the hills, trying to stay out in front of these Harpies as much as possible. Easier said than done, certainly, but the Supreme Sorceress doing exactly what she should, making sure that these Witch Hunters are not going to come back. Thankfully for the Spearmen there, those Sisters of Slaughter just shattered. The Cold One Knights here also very, very low, but they are going to go after some of these routing Halberdiers here, and oh man, may even just use these guys to chase off those Witch Hunters and keep the Supreme Sorceress around doing stuff like this, launching a fireball at Gelt, which he just dodges by getting back up into the air there. So yeah, nice stuff. That being said though, the Cold One Knights are going to have to be careful. They're the only ground troops left for the Dark Elves, so if they go down, the Dark Elf air units are going to start suffering leadership penalties, and their leadership's already not super great to begin with, so yeah, super close battle though. It's been a knockdown, drag-out fight. And interesting to see an Empire build with no cavalry against the Dark Elves. I guess Kark just not really wanting to contest the cav game at all, or maybe just kind of hoping to subvert like some of the anti-cav tools that the Dark Elves would potentially bring. But ended up working out okay. I mean, granted, he still hasn't taken home the battle quite yet, but the one Witch Hunter does get finished off there. I'm not sure where he ended up. Oh, looks like there he is. Ugh, looks like somebody lost their head. But the other Witch Hunter not probably going to rally before those Cold One Knights catch up to him. The question is, will the Cold One Knights just rout? The Dragon has no choice, though, but to come down to the ground, try and finish off some of these units. They are very low on leadership, so the terror rout will be real, but these 4 Sigmar Sons going to come in here and just be true heroes of the Empire. We'll fast forward a little bit through this late game cleanup phase as Balthazar is just running away from the Harpies desperately, and yeah, looks like the other Witch Hunter did get finished off by the Cold One Knights there. I think, though, that the Dark Elves are just not going to be able to sustain this here. Yeah, we'll see. Ooh, a final transmutation finally coming down. That will finish off the Supreme Sorceress, and with that, it's going to be GG. When no doubt the Harpies will just rout there. Yep, the final transmutation finishes off the Supreme Sorceress's leadership, and that's going to be GG for the Empire. Victory for the Empire, that is. So very well played to both players. Super fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. Yeah, both kind of, well, I guess the Gelt Witch Hunter build is not super uncommon, but to go with no cavalry at all, especially against the Dark Elves, who traditionally are sort of weaker against strong heavy cavalry builds, ended up working out okay, although I guess it's good that he didn't go with the heavy cavalry build, considering all these Cold One Knights who were able to get some good damage done regardless. Bleak Swords also getting some impressive kill totals here. Sisters of Slaughter cleaning up in the front line. Reaper Bolt Throwers also did quite well, and 134 on the Harpies, not bad at all. 160 as well for the Supreme Sorceress, so man, she was just popping off those fireballs left and right. Did breath attacks, charged down into melee, just all over the place. I really like that pick for the Dark Elves there. For the Empire, of course, the Witch Hunters definitely being the MVPs, hunting down the Witch in the late game there, kind of swinging the balance of power. And then, of course, Balthazar Gelt finishing things off with a final cheese mutation, just, you know, collecting all the Dorito dust from the Supreme Sorceress. And then the Empire Infantry, in certain aspects, did okay, although the Greatswords, I would say, definitely struggled. Without any kind of cavalry support, they were just kind of run down by the Cold One Knights. They got eaten up by the Bolt Throwers. They were able to do enough, I would say. Sigmar Sons, though, definitely MVPs. The Silver Bolts and the Crossbowmen didn't get a whole lot of damage done per se in terms of kills, but I do believe they did a little bit of HP damage to the Supreme Sorceress and like the Cold One Chariots and maybe the Cold One Knights and so on. So yeah, I mean, they definitely helped out in the combined arms aspect, but certainly they were countered quite well by the Reaper Bolt Throwers there. But nevertheless, very fun battle. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.